Yeah, hi, good morning. So let's start our service session now. Sorry. Okay. So in our yesterday session, I think we discussed about how to consume REST services from our Spring Boot application, where we are having query parameters or request headers, or maybe whenever we are having path variables. So how to define path variables, values, and variables as part of any URI. So we discussed all this information in yesterday session, and we completed couple of examples by calling fake store API services also. Okay, so now today what we are going to discuss is the last topic of as part of REST API implementation and consumption point of view. So XML payload. So that means so far we completed everything only with respect to JSON data point of view. Okay, this is the most popular one nowadays. Everybody is using JSON only. Okay, so nobody is using XML most of the scenarios, but sometimes very rare cases you will see XML payloads also. That's why we will see one small example how we are going to implement REST services along with XML support. We will try to understand. But related to JSON data format, we completed all the information. So today, how we are going to send XML data from the client and how server side application or Spring Boot application is handling the XML payload. For that, what we have to do in our Spring Boot, what's happening and all. Let's try to understand. Okay, so REST services implementation with XML payloads. Very simple. Only one small thing you have to do today. That's all. Okay. So what it is, let's try to understand. So that means on a simple agenda, what we are going to discuss right now is, so in earlier case, what a client will send always JSON data, right? For example, if it is JSON data, a request point of view, we'll send like based on the JSON rules and regulations point of view, we will take like okay, let's take some payload from here instead of typing all the things. Okay, so if you see here, so this kind of body generally we used to send. Okay, I'll take same data today with respect to XML also. Yeah, if it is JSON, we used to based on the requirement point of view, we want to collect all this information, so that based on the JSON format we created this. Now same thing with respect to XML point of view, how we are going to send as a request. I mean, how we are going to support in Spring Boot application. That is what we are trying to understand. Okay, so I'll remove couple of properties. Okay, so client is always sending, for example, JSON data point of view we are seeing. Now what? This is the JSON data. Now this is coming to the our Spring Boot application. Use case one. In the request body level, this data will come to our Spring Boot application. So in Spring Boot, what's happening? So whenever this JSON payload come, like content type, client sending like content type as JSON. So what Spring Boot is doing internally, it is invoking the Java to, sorry, JSON to Java conversion point of view, JSON to Java. So we will have a request body class. So understand the point, guys, please. So we have a request body Java class, right? So we will have a Java class here. Now, the moment you, whatever the class you are having here, okay, whatever the Java class you are having associated to this JSON payload, what internally Spring Boot is doing, it is invoking Jackson converter. So it is using internally Jackson API or Jackson API JSON converter it will use. So by using Jackson, what it is doing from JSON to Java, it is converting nothing but finally an object got created like this. Now you will pass this data to service layer and all, that's a common story. But today Okay, this is one scenario. So then you will get some response. This is use case one. Now, similarly, one more use case is what response point of view. Sometimes what will happen whenever your client sent a request like, hey, I want data based on the something like user ID, email point of view like that, it is requesting the data like in the path variable or whatever it is. Now, client what it will do? So, server application or Spring Boot application. So again, it is a Spring Boot application. So what it will do, it got only email value, maybe as a path variable or whatever it is. But whenever it is returning response, okay, so what it will do internally, it is always by default have Java object. So in this case, it has to convert Java to JSON point of view. So in this case, it has to convert internally Java to JSON object. So why it's a response section? In this case, you are sending response. So that what you're using in this case also Jackson internally by default Jackson API being used Jackson converter and your Java object is converted to JSON and finally the client will receive JSON response. Client will receive JSON response. Right? So here when you got request and you are having request body of JSON, so JSON to Java, Jackson API converter is taking care. Nothing but a Java object is created. Here also, when you are already have a Java object with you ready, so with respect to response point of view, internally what Spring Framework is doing, Spring Boot, it is taking Jackson API help and it is converting Java to JSON format, that Java object to JSON format, and finally client is receiving the JSON. So here the overall conversion from JSON to Java to JSON point of view, Jackson converter is doing all these things. Now today use case is similar to same thing, but in place of JSON, if I am sending XML, so I'll send XML data. I'll send XML data. So that internally what Spring Boot has to do is in this case, yes, there will not be any code changes. You will not see much code changes, guys. Okay. Small configuration point of view. Let's see here. Now, with respect to Spring Boot application, what has to be done? XML to Java conversion. Why? We will have same request body. Same request body based on the XML payloads. Based on the XML payload, you will create a Java class. Same Java class, I mean, you will have class. Now in this case, the moment whenever it has to convert from XML data to, okay, what I will do is, I'll take some JSON to XML converter. Okay, so something I got like this. So don't worry too much about XML, guys. So for in interview perspective, you have to know all these things. But if it's better to practice couple of examples, no one will stop you. But okay, so what? See here, every JSON property name we made it as a XML tag name exactly. If you see here, this conversion also we have to be familiar, guys. When I given something to some requirement you got tomorrow and they ask you to implement only XML, then you have to prepare the XML payloads and all. Okay, so root you can take anything user. So in this case, you should know XML rules and regulations, XML language. What is XML? What is parent tag, child tag, nested tags? These are all rules you have to know. Go through it, high level at least. Okay, now see here also I'm sending what information, Dilip, all this information. So, but only thing is this time I'm sending as a XML point of view. Okay, this time we are sending via XML point of view. So then what you have to do? Okay. So you are getting body as XML, content type as XML, and then internally Spring Boot has to invoke Java to XML converter. So however it is having Java to JSON, JSON to Java point of view, a converter we have, right? So a converter API. Similarly, we do have in this case also XML data format converter we need to main. We have to internal it will start using XML data format converter. XML data format converter. But by default, do we have this XML data format converter? Means we don't have it. That means whenever you created a Spring Boot application, by default internally Spring Boot framework coming up with JSON support but not XML support. Okay, but not XML support. So that's why one small thing as a developer, what we have to do is, as a developer, we have to add we have to add that XML data format converter. So we have to add a dependency. See, yeah, we have to add a dependency of XML data format converter. XML data format. We have to add it. So the moment you added this data format manually to your pom.xml file level, this XML data format one, internally that means your project is supporting now. So that means by default already JSON is there and you are adding XML. So that means now our Spring Boot application is having total two converters. One is JSON converter as well as XML converter also, because we are adding the XML converter. Now, whenever you got XML data, so immediately what it will do is based on the content type header, it will start invoking internally XML. So how it knows that? I already shown you early last time also. If you see here header, the moment you are okay, it gone somewhere. Okay, so the moment we are passing header selected JSON, right? Client is sending content type of JSON. The moment you are sending XML, so it's client responsibility. They should send header content type with XML value. So this based on this value, content type and okay, XML point of view. So this is the header importance. It is playing important role. Content type application. If you are sending XML, you have to send XML. If you are sending JSON payload, so in this case it will go as XML. In this case as JSON. So in this case application slash JSON. So this is request type, right? So whenever you send XML, then internally it will invoke XML converter. XML converter. So he may similarly whenever you added whenever you send JSON payload, internally Spring Boot application will invoke the JSON converter. JSON converter. JSON converter. So now the next point. So how to define this class? Okay, you have to use request body annotation class. 100% sorry, 100% is similar to JSON point of view. What are the rules you followed? Like JSON key name should be Java property name, like that. Same rules you have to follow with respect to XML also. Nothing bad. So here, this is the main data, right? So your XML tag name will become Java property name. XML tag name becomes Java property name. Java property name. So total 8 properties are there. These 8 properties will become your Java property names. If there is a change in the XML property name and Java property name, so if it is JSON, you used an annotation called as JSON property, right? Similarly, here also you will have something like @XML property. Okay, there you will define that XML tag name on top of Java property name. When you feel both are different, there is a change in the Java property name and XML. Okay, so that you can try it later. I'll just show you that. So now just create a Java class for this. What I will do, I'll take a new application, file, new Spring Boot starter project. Okay, so here I'm taking everything by default. Okay, I think this is not required for you. Dev tools validation. Yeah, you can add validations also, guys, in the Java request body. Now XML is not sending this tag. Assume something they are not sending XML tag or email tag, whatever it is. Then it's a mandatory. So you can add in the Java class level that at the rate validation. So that means go with validation also when you are practicing. Finish it. Okay, let's take the DB properties instead of typing manually. Okay, XML payload, main resources. So something like I'll take API. Okay, so cool. So I taken the DB properties also fine. Okay, so now let's create a controller class immediately. User controller, iterate rest controller, public string, add user. Okay, so then return user added successfully. Okay, so at the rate post mapping and then path equal to add slash user. Okay, fine. And then at the rate request body. So here, why? Yes, obviously request body will come, right? So definitely we need a request body. So we have to create a Java class. So I'm creating a Java class user details like that, user details. So create this Java class, request body class. Same JSON point of view only as it is. Okay, now I can take Lombok help here. Then I'll add the properties. What is the rule you have to remember? So whatever the XML tags you are using, that should be your JSON property. In case if there is a change, you can use XML property annotation or like that. Okay, that you can explore later. So let's do one thing. I'll take quickly one by one. These are the main tags. Okay, so let's implement quickly. Private string name, private string mobile number, age integer I'll take, city Hyderabad, city, gender, qualification, oh sorry, qualification, and then mobile number, I mean sorry, country. Okay, so these are the properties. Yes, exactly similar to XML data failure point of view. So if it is JSON also you used to do same thing, right? So now okay, I'm ready with my request body class. Cool. Now sys out of request received for adding or add user. So I'm printing the request data, what has been received. Okay, and I'm not adding any service layers and all, guys. Please take care of it. So here the story is common. Only thing is how your XML payload is coming until this layer is most important. After that, you know that just pass this object to service layer, repository, entity classes, story is common. Service, repository. So you just take care of it. Okay, I'm just showing you really the mapping is happening from XML to Java or not. Okay, okay, fine. So now let's send the request. By default, it is happening or not. We will try to understand. Okay, let me start my application. Okay, so I'm just starting. So until this, you know that if you are sending JSON, it will work. Okay, let's do one thing. Let's prepare our endpoint now. New HTTP post method and localhost 8888 slash API slash add slash user. So let me send the body raw. JSON I am sending first of all because we know that JSON is by default supported here. What is our console layer? Yeah. So your application started, right? I'm sending JSON, guys. Observe the point here. So headers content type going as JSON. Okay. So JSON point of view, we don't have any confusion. We know everything. It will work also. And if you see the data also, you got all the data is mapped. Name, mobile number. From JSON to Java, mapping is happened automatically without anything. But now let's send XML content. Same thing with respect to XML point of view, I'm sending. Okay, just what I'm selecting here it is XML. The moment you selected here XML, you have to send only XML data format. So I sent XML data format. I'm sending XML data format. So if you see the header now what content type of XML. Postman sending header as XML. Hey server, I'm giving you the XML content this time. Like that it is sending content type as XML. Send it. Now what happens see here? Unsupported. Oh my god. Yeah. So let me send the request one more time. So what you got here? Unsupported media type. So the error is 415 status code and it is saying like content type XML you given, but server application is giving a response back to the client. Server is giving a response back to the client like, hey client, whatever you given, right now I'm not supporting that content type media type like XML. So like that it is giving the response. Why? Yes, our Spring Boot by default not supporting XML. Now what to do? So by default it's not supporting. That's why you are getting 415 unsupported media type. Okay, this is what you got when no XML data format, no XML supported by default. If you are sending. Okay. So first rule, what you have to remember here it is. Now let's understand the point one by one. So I said one point earlier, we have two properties in a request mapping annotation or post mapping annotation level. Those are all what? Consumes and produces. So what is the meaning of consumes? It's all about incoming request. Incoming request data. So by default, what is the consumes value? I said JSON. By default Spring Boot point of view, the default data format it is supporting is JSON. So in this case, I have to take consumes. Why? Yes, I am getting a request and by default it is JSON only. But this time I want to make sure along with JSON or maybe see, it's all again based on the requirement. So your requirement is demanding support only XML. Okay, support only JSON, support both the point of view. The request you can send XML, you can send JSON, or you can send either XML or JSON. So in this case, only XML, only JSON, both. So this is the default one. Only XML is the default one. Only XML is the default one, right? So the moment you are sending JSON, you don't see any error. But XML point of view, no, right? So what I'm doing here it is, okay, now my REST service would like to accept the request in the format of media type dot XML value. Media type of, what is this media type? I want Spring media type. Package name is different, guys. Spring media type I want. Yeah, this one. Dot. So what value I'm taking is application XML value. Yeah, application XML value I'm taking. So that means what? If you given like this, it means it supports only XML, guys. The moment when you are not given no consumes means it is by default what? JSON value. See, if it is only XML means now in this case, the moment you given consumes like this, JSON not supported. So that means JSON not supported. JSON not supported. I'll show you this one. So the moment when you are not given consumes itself, no consumes means by default JSON only. That means this value. Or if you given manually also, even if you given this one also, if you given consumes as a JSON value also, then also what it will not support XML. That is what we saw right now. XML not supported. Unsupported media type you will get. Yeah, this is the default one from last. By default, this is what Spring Boot will be. If no consumes, internal it is taking as JSON. Even if you given manually JSON also, XML is not supported. If you given manually consumes equal to XML, that means JSON is not supported. If you want to support both means, what you have to do is specifically you have to mention both. So consumes, so you have to take array of values, comma, media type of JSON value. So that means now this request is ready to, now your REST service will support both XML content as well as JSON content in the request. Like that. We will see these three scenarios. First scenario we are already done. Right now I shown you unsupported media type. Now I am adding only XML type, XML value. Okay, so let's send the request now. What will happen? Try to see. First do the experiments, okay, before adding the dependency. I want to show you all the hidden information. So now I give an XML value. I'm saying like support only XML, not even JSON also. So let's send request with JSON first. Okay, this is the JSON, right? Earlier you got 200, okay, right? Now right send the, okay. So in this case, okay, internally it is taking only JSON point of view. I'll consume. Sorry, save all changes. That's the most important thing. Send the request. Now see here, I got surprised 1 minute, man. Okay, so what you got? Unsupported media type. Why? You sent JSON only. It is working earlier. But this time it is saying like application JSON is unsupported media type. Why? You restricted at REST service level what? Only XML has to be supported. Only XML has to be supported. That is what the scenario I'm saying. So now JSON is not supported. Okay, cool. Now let's verify first of all XML, at least XML content is working or not. Okay, so now I take an XML content sending the request. Now see here what it is saying. Even XML also not supported. Why? Because you given XML only here. Even it is saying like XML is also not allowed. The reason is you don't have XML data format. So that's why you have to add some XML data format. A dependency we have to add always. So now add the dependency. So this is one time work only, guys. Adding the dependency is just one time work. Okay. Now, what is the dependency here? It is, see, there are, I know that one is the most popular one is even whatever we have for the JSON converter, right? Jackson API. Jackson JSON converter we have, right? Similarly, we have Jackson itself providing XML converter also. Jackson organization itself providing XML data format converter also. Or else we have one more from our Java language called as JAXB converter. JAX means Java XML beans. JAXB, it will be called as JAXB. API also you can use JAXB API converter or whatever it is. You can use JAXB also. Okay, but this is even given by the Java team, but this is from the Jackson organization. Yes, we can take either of them. I'm taking Jackson now. Mostly people will go with that. So let's just identify from the online Jackson XML data format Maven dependency. Okay, go to some latest one, whatever it is. Now, what is this? This is what the thing you have to take. Copy this dependency. So I'm going with Jackson XML converter. Just add this to our pom.xml file. Stop your application first before adding changes in the pom.xml. Go to pom.xml. Just add into dependency level. Okay. So I just added now. What's the problem? I have always copy paste issues. Okay. Now I added what? This Jackson XML data format. Okay. So let's go here now. Go and verify Maven dependencies level. Now we will see Jackson level some XML data formatters also. See Jackson data format XML. Okay. So yeah, that means we added it. Now send the request. Now start your application and send the request. We are not done anything. We are just given XML consumes XML and we added the dependency. Okay. So before adding the dependency, what you got unsupported media type, even though you sent XML. But this time send the request. Is it started? Yeah, started, right? Send the request again. See, I'm sending XML only. If you see here, header also XML and we are sending XML data, proper XML data. Send it. Now see what you got. 200. Okay. Right. A user added successful. So that means now this time it supported XML. So what are the one thing you have to remember here? It is adding this dependency. This is the one dependency you have to add. Internally Spring Boot will take care of which converter has to be invoked like this. Okay, that's the only one thing you have to do. Now, now done. Your project is now your project is ready to support XML payloads. So with this, what's happened means now our project, Spring Boot project, is ready to support XML payloads. XML payloads. That's all. Now your Spring Boot is having nothing but XML converter also. See what happened code wise, you observed any change? Nothing. Same in this case also, the request body is created. That means what happened? XML value to Java object conversion is happened because of internally that converter is invoked by Spring Boot framework. Okay, now, so if you want to support JSON also, I said right, you have to take comma array of values, media type dot JSON value. Yes. Now this REST service will support both XML and JSON. Why? You used consumes as well as you defined XML comma JSON. So that means now you can send XML. Okay, working. And yeah, you are sending JSON. It started working. So that means now your REST service, let me open this Swagger. I think I did not added this Swagger. Let me add this Swagger and show you how it looks like on this Swagger also. So simple point of view, now your REST service is supporting both JSON payloads and XML payload. Now tell me tomorrow if any requirement came, it has to support only JSON, not any other data formats. What you have to do? Don't declare the consumes. By default JSON only. Or your requirement is demanding support only XML, no any other formats. Then define consumes property and define only XML value, not any other thing. That means your REST service will support that particular endpoint. Okay, not all guys. Now if I created one more service, okay, add user something like V2, whatever it is, add something Gmail user or whatever it is. You are adding some admin user or something like that, whatever it is. Now in this case, what will happen if I given like this? Yeah. Now what is the difference between first and second REST service? Whoever is calling slash add user, okay, let's do one thing. Add admin user, something like that. I'll take it up. Okay. Now whoever is sending request for this add user endpoint, they can send either XML or JSON. Both are supported. But in this case, it supports only XML. It supports only XML. If you are trying to send JSON, then you will get unsupported media type. It supports only XML. But this supports XML as well as JSON also. So let me add the Swagger also. Okay, now your Swagger is also getting updated into your project. Let's start our application one more time and go to the Swagger API documentation. How to open it? Local, yeah, 888888 API slash Swagger. Yeah, it's getting started. Yeah, it started, right? Go to the Swagger documentation. Yeah. So see here now total two REST services, right? First one expand it. What it is saying? XML. So they given XML payload also. That's what I said. Swagger API will give you XML payloads also, but you should know manually how to do it and all at least. Now, as well as the front end developer or any other clients will verify from here. So that means what is this is saying? It is supporting XML as well as JSON. That means this endpoint add user supporting both XML as well as JSON. So if you want to send a XML request, send in this format. If you want to send JSON format, send in this format like that. So XML, you can try it from here also. Try it out, right? Where it is? Yeah, try it out. Send it, execute it. So you got user added successfully. So if you want to send XML, yes. Sorry, JSON, try it out, execute. So you sent this time JSON. So that means this endpoint will support both JSON and XML. Now go to the next endpoint. People are integrating this call. Now they verified this document very clearly saying it supports only XML. Try to expand. See here. It is saying this REST service will support only XML payload, not any other data format. Now front end team has to it's up. I mean, not only front end, any client application. Now it's their headache. Ultimately, they have to send only XML payload and with content type up header called as application slash XML. Until and unless they are not sending this required format, they'll get bad request, unsupported media type, all these things. So that is how you are going to support the XML payloads. So this consumes and produces, you have to use accordingly based on your requirement point of view. So your requirement is supporting no man, we have to support both JSON and XML. Then make it add one more time, comma, JSON value. That means what? It supports JSON also. Now this will support JSON also. Now it will support JSON also. If you go here, admin user, XML as well as JSON. So if it is JSON, you have to send this format. If it is XML, so that means now both are supporting both a JSON and as well as XML data formats. That is the what I told you here. It's a very simple. Just only thing is you have to add the dependency. And whenever you are dealing with XML payloads, you have to utilize always this property, consumes property, with respect to request point of view. Okay, so with respect to request point of view, you have to utilize always consumes attribute. You have to specifically mention it. Now, the next, when it comes to response, how internally again Java object being converted to response. Let's take like this. At the rate get mapping. So slash user slash email ID or mobile number, whatever it is, some user ID, whatever it is. Okay, import it. Now here I'm writing response of in which format this data only I'm returning as it is. User details. So that means this is a Java object you are returning. So by default, what format you will get? Okay, let's create object for this. User details. See, assume this data you got from the DB guys. Okay. So that means again you have to take care of service layer and then repository layer. So simply you got email ID. Sys out of got request for finding user with email. Okay. So based on this email, assume this email ID you are sending to the service layer, and from the repository point of view, you are making find by ID or find by email ID, something like that. You got user entity object and you convert it to DTO object and you will return that from the service layer to controller layer. That story, please take care of it. Okay. Now assume this object you got from the service layer. Finally, you got this object from the service layer. Which object? User details object. Okay, so I'm keeping some data manually, hard coded value, set name, but you actually assume this data assume came from service layer and DB layers like that after adding the JPA modules, all these things. Okay, so let's take data. Set name, I think I can take arguments constructor also, it's okay. Set what it is, age 30, age, city, Hyderabad, set country, India, gender, set Mobile number. Okay, then name completed, password. Password I don't want to return. Okay, ignore it. And then set qualification. Agent completed PC. Now I'm returning this data. Okay. Now if I'm calling this REST service, what data format I'll get back immediately. So now if I'm passing email ID, this Java object you are returning, right? Nothing but this is a Java object. Right? Now what data format I'll get back immediately. So let's send the request new localhost colon double eight slash API slash user slash email ID. So I'll give like something slash Dilip at the rate gmail.com. Okay, so let's send the request now. What data format we got here? It is by default to JSON. Yes, we know that by default JSON only. By default JSON only, right? Now tell me in this case what I have to do if I want to get XML data format as a response. Response as XML. Okay, again here also you will get three use cases. What it is, whether you want only JSON or only XML or JSON and XML both. So your REST service has to support only JSON, only XML, only JSON. I mean both JSON and XML. Yeah, if it is only JSON, yes, it is already by default. That means what is the property you have to use in this case, guys? Produces. You have to use produces. So that means produces nothing but what data format it is producing. This REST service. So if you are not mentioned means by default done. That means JSON default is default only JSON only. But I'm expecting in the XML format. Okay, I did not use produces. That means by default only JSON only. It will not support XML. How to prove that? So here you have to use one more header called as accept header. Okay, send one extra header, guys. When you want data in the XML format only. So what you can take? So Slate take accept application of XML. So what I'm trying to ask here it is now I'm sending one extra header. Okay, I'm sending one extra header. It's already there. I'm overriding it. What I'm asking the server is, hey server, I want response body in the XML format. I will accept. Client is saying to the server application, I will accept XML as a response. That means what server application will do is whenever it is sending that data object back to client, it will verify client sent what response format. Client is expecting what XML. But in the REST API level, are you supporting XML? No. You are supporting only JSON, but you are expecting in the XML. Now let's go and see. Okay, so it's giving XML. Okay, internal it is converting. So I don't think this point. Okay, anyway, the moment you given XML, you are getting. The moment you given JSON also you are getting. Uh, I think when you are not mentioned anything, some small use case is missing here. Let's do one thing. Let me define manually produces. I think if you are not defined anything, okay, path I'll take first. Path. See, JSON is the only king, okay, but just see produces. I'll take media type of JSON, media type dot JSON value. Only JSON point of view, I'm trying to do that. Okay, so I specially mentioned media type of JSON. Now send the request again. Okay, you got the JSON, that's okay, but I'm sending XML. also. Now see what it is. Not acceptable. 406 not acceptable. What server is saying in this case based on this configuration? I mean, based on this configuration point of view, okay, define. I think we have to do here. Only JSON point of view, producers point of view, define with JSON media type. If you are not defined, then it is supporting XML also whenever you added XML converter. Okay, that means you have to do this. For example, point of view. If you want to support only JSON, but the moment you give an XML, what it is saying? Not acceptable. So that means no XML supported. No XML response supported. So what you're getting in this case, 406 not acceptable. 406 not accessible. So what is the meaning of not accessible? The requested resource is only capable of generating content not acceptable according to the accept header. You given XML, right? Now server is saying, hey client, I cannot accept your okay response type like XML because I'm supporting only JSON. So but you are expecting XML, so that's why not acceptable. So that's what expected also. That is what we are expected also. So that means 406 not acceptable, you got it. Now if you want to support only XML, give here only XML value. Now send the request. Save, let's save the changes. Send the request with XML first. Okay, I'm sending see accept with what guys? XML. So yes, I am also see you got this time 200. Okay, why? Your REST service level you declared what XML. The moment you define this one, that means this supports only what? This time only XML. No JSON supported. No JSON response supported. So expectation, right? Let's send the JSON now. So I'm asking the client. I mean, client is asking the server application. Hey server, once you process the request, please give me response only in the JSON format. Like that, client requesting the server application. Now server is processing the request first, and while it is converting response, it's verified what client is looking. Client is looking for JSON, but in server side, I'm supporting only XML. I'm not supporting JSON. That's why again you got 406 not acceptable. See how cleverly you have to utilize these properties in between XML and JSON request and response data formats. Okay. So that means again you got what? 406 not acceptable. Why? You given only this one. Now if you want to support both, that means now client can get response in the JSON as well as XML. Then define produces comma what you have to define media type dot what pending is JSON, right? Yeah, JSON. JSON value. Okay, now what you define both. I can do one thing produces. Okay, anyway, example point of view, you get an idea. So what you define produces, that means this REST service will produce response in the XML as well as JSON. Now it's client responsibility which one it is expecting. So now client is asking, okay, is it started successfully? Say changed all our changes. Yes, I changed all the changes. Application started successfully. Now let's see the send the request. So if you see here, email ID went, assume like that. Now at last, what server is doing? You requested in the JSON, it given the JSON. Now request in the XML. Yes, it is XML. That means now your application is supporting both. I think I think this one, I'm not sure. Well, let me try this. This is one of the REST service I collected from the internet. So by default, what you are getting? JSON, right? Can I try with accept XML? So you can verify whether they are supporting XML or not. You can verify from this postman also. So I accept. I'm looking this time XML. XML format. Even though you given XML, they are not. So that I think this is the not one. Somewhere I saw one of the real REST service both supporting both. But these guys are not supporting XML. These are also supporting only JSON only. Even though you are giving XML, they are somehow managing and they are sending XML response, sorry, JSON response only. Okay. But anyway, it's all use cases responses point of view, requirement point of view. Now see, you got in XML where our requirement is where? Yeah, this one. The moment I am expecting header accept XML, so it is giving XML. If you are asking JSON, it will give you JSON. So that is how you have to support the XML payloads as part of our, we have to use the Spring Boot applications. So these two properties are more important. In interviews, they will ask you like what is the importance of producers and consumes attributes. Simply they will ask. Then you have to tell all these stories, all these use cases. What first of all consumes will do. Consumes related to incoming request, producers related to outgoing response. That kind of terminology, that kind of mapping terminology, we have to use in interviews, guys, while you're answering. Then it will give you an impression like, okay, this guy is having very clear picture. So consumes means incoming request body. That means it related to request area. Produces means producing, nothing but it related to response data. So like that. And these properties, if you are not defined in Spring Boot, by default JSON. Okay, if you are defined specifically, only that specific things will be supported, not any other things like that. So then you have to say like media type, if I given only XML, it will support. In interview, I want to support, see, because this is one of the popular interview question. What it is, okay, I know how to work with JSON payloads, but I want to make sure my payload has to work only with JSON, sorry, XML request body payload. It should not support JSON. What I have to do in Spring Boot. So if you say like if you are just adding this property is enough with respect to consumes, it will not work. Why? Because Spring Boot by default doesn't have a XML converter. So that's why you have to tell them first to this point. Yes, by default Spring Boot is not supporting XML data format. So to support XML data format, first of all, we have to add a XML data format converter. Okay, we have to add a jar file or dependency related to XML data format one. Point number one. Point number two, we have to, on that API level, whatever the API, we are trying to make only XML request has to be supported at that API level. In the request mapping annotation level or specific mapping annotation level, we have to use an attribute called as consumes and we have to define media type as XML value so that that REST service will support only XML. That means whenever we send XML data associated to that endpoint controller method level, okay, it will accept only XML and it will make sure XML converted to request body like that. If you are trying to give JSON, then you will get unsupported media type. Unsupported media type. See, that is what. Now the people will ask, what is a, sometimes they'll ask an interview question like, what is unsupported media type? So do you know a status code called as unsupported media type? They will ask like that. Can you give an example for unsupported media type? Unsupported media type. They'll ask one question. Then what you will say? Right? So they will ask the status code 415. Can you explain about unsupported media type status code? Have you seen anywhere else? They will ask like, they'll give this status code and they will say like, what is the meaning of this status code? Simple. See, the interview questions may come in any way. What is the meaning of this status code? Can you explain? That's all. They are not asking you like XML, JSON, and all. They are simply asking, they are giving like, what is the importance of this? What is the meaning of this status code 415? Then you have to select it's a client error. 400 series represented to 400 client side mistakes, client side errors. Nothing but usually we will get this like if you taken an example where an API is supporting only JSON, okay, but we sent XML data, then we will get unsupported media type. One of the example like that you have to tell them. So then server application will give response with this status code called as a 415 like unsupported media type, nothing but XML is not supported. Like that you have to give the answers. Okay. So yeah, that is what about XML guys. I think you are very good with XML now. So only Swagger API document will help you. No, don't worry. So see here, if I loaded this Swagger API one more time, what's happened? I started my application. Why? Why it's not loading? Okay. So see here, path variable, email point of view, and what response it is supporting. See, this JSON, sorry, Swagger API is saying very clearly, response, the server this endpoint, this endpoint is going to give response in both XML and JSON formats. Now, client application will understand, the developers will understand, okay, these guys are giving response in both XML and JSON. Like that, they will understand, and whatever the feasible response type for them, they will request. They will send like, okay, they will send like accept application slash XML. Then our server application will give XML response. If they send like accept application slash JSON, then we will send them to JSON. Like that, client application will refer these documents and they will start calling the services. So any doubts with respect to XML payload converters? So here these two properties will play important role, consumes, produces, when you want to involve XML payloads. Okay, so with this, we are done with completely REST API implementation, even the pending one called as XML payloads also. So please practice XML payloads also. Please practice all these use cases, whatever we did today. These are all things will be converted into an interview questions. For experienced people also, I'm telling you, especially experienced people only, these are all questions will come. Because so definitely right, if you don't know what is the unsupported media type, not acceptable, accept header. So when you have to send produces, consumes, how to configure only XML payload. Interview they will ask all these things. I want to support my API only XML. I want to support both. My response, okay, you have to implement an API service which has to produce response in both XML and JSON. What you have to do? What we are going to do? We have to produce only JSON. What we have to do? We have to produce only XML. What we have to do? Like that, different ways people will come with interview questions. So then when you can answer is just by doing all these things practically, all these use cases. I shown you, but at the same time you have to practice from your end also. And my suggestion is please make sure when you are practicing, don't be lazy. Like I written like service repository, right? You don't do that. Don't do that mistakes. You start writing service layer, repository layers, and everything. Okay, quality of practice is more important. Quantity is not required. One example, do perfectly. So now I said I did not include response entities and all. But you have to include 400, 201 created, 200 okay. If user is a see, I teach you XML point of view today, only XML point of view. But when you are practicing, what you have to do is okay, you want to practice XML. Along with that, you have to feel like, okay, what are the older concepts I can include as part of this my practice? One is you can include response entity. Why? What response? Why response entity? Because REST API standards are saying whenever you are adding a new user, whether it is a XML payload or JSON payload, doesn't matter. You have to return status code 201. If existed 200, okay. So that means sometimes 201, sometimes 200. So that means you have to take response entity. So that means you are practicing XML today's topic along with older topics. If you are able to do this kind of practice in your systems, then you will be good. It's not like no Dilip today Dilip did like taken string shortcuts. It's class guys. I can give this is the way only. If I started taking all the older concepts again as part of this, then training will go 2 years. So class level, no one will do that. Not only me, nobody cannot do that. But at least I'm giving you hints. So that is how you have to do that. Okay, response entity. Apart from that, what else other concepts you can involve? Like that, you have to think. Any headers, any path variables, I like that. Response entity, any shortcuts you can do, all these things. So in this case also, for example, email ID is not found. 204 no content. If found 200 okay. That means again response entity. You have to wrap here response entity. That means you are practicing today's topic along with older topics and adding the service layers, repository layers, entity classes. If you are doing such a way, n number of examples, one fine day you will be very confident or you will be very okay, very you will be very clear with each and every topic what's happening, each and every scenario wise. So just go through it. I'm stopping the session here. I think one of the concept is missing. We have 15 minutes, right? Okay. Anyway, I'm also feeling a bit lazy. So we have one more concept. I forgot to add that. So exception handling, global exception handling in Spring Web module. Okay, it's not our regular exception handling in the Java. Okay, related to that exceptions only, but we are centralizing or globalizing the exception handling in Spring Web module. There are some concepts available, controller, advise, exception handler, like that. This is the one topic pending from the web module. Okay, I forgot to do that. But anyway, this is the right time to discuss this one also. So we will discuss this topic tomorrow. So with this, I'll think almost we are done with the web module. Okay. So I'll discuss exception handling in Spring Web module or Spring Boot Web module. Both are same. Okay. So I'm suggesting you guys again. I'm telling you, if you want some okay theory knowledge, I already provided everything in the material. Theory point of view, I written in the layman terminology, nothing but our day to day. However, we will speak, right. I mean, interview point of view, how we have to answer such a way. Just I given all these what expel. These are all things. So if I open this. So I given every details. What is a component scan? I mean, that's what theory point of view. I given a lot of explanation here also. You can remember a couple of points with respect to interview point of view, but you have to tell them in a practical point of view also. So just refer this document. I made very carefully. Even still, I'm updating also. Recently, I updated two or three more concepts in the same document. I'll share you by next week one more time. Latest one. So so this is having all other things also. So I am just preparing all these things manually by taking care of everything. Even I'm adding interview questions also. What are the frequently asked interview questions and all the most important interview questions I'm adding. I'll share it with you. It's in progress. Okay. So that is what, just go through it. So whatever theory point of view and everything, answering in interview perspective. And while practicing also, you can refer this document because I highlighted all the things. Why I'm saying is after 1 week or 10 days you are done with your spring boot. After that you will never contact me. I will never contact you, right? Never contact means that's what we are not in the regular touch. Then just refer this document and practice. If you forget anything like HTTP headers you forget, then go through this document. Okay, this material point of view, you can go and then you can find out what is the HTTP headers and everything. So then you can find out the theory point of view. So what is request headers or response headers examples. So these are all things will be helpful for you in interview. So that whenever someone else is asking what is HTTP address, you can answer these points and you can tell them like we have two types. These are the examples. These are the examples. And when it comes to Spring Boot point of view, how to add headers in a API level, how to read header values, okay, how to send from the client and how to read again from the server application. All this information I provided. Okay. So how to read again headers, how to add at response level. This is the exception handling I'm talking about tomorrow's session. This I'll cover tomorrow. Okay, so what is exception handling and all? We'll try to understand. Yeah, this part only pending. We'll see tomorrow. Okay. Yeah, producing, consuming and all. We are already. That is what we completed from last 2 week, 1 week. Producing REST services, creating REST services, and everything. I given everything very clearly. I given diagram point of view where you're doing the specific code changes and everything. Just refer it. It will be helpful for you. Helping or document point of view. See, I given one of the REST service which is I implemented from the REST. That is what I shown you, right? Right now, one of the REST service, real REST service countries. Yeah, this is the one. So I told you, I already asked you to go with as an assignment for consuming this REST service. I don't know how many of you did that. If you are unable to do it, refer this document. We are already I given it. For that, what class you have to create, okay, which class you created, and see this is the endpoint. Consuming REST template. I given already answer, but you try first. Then see the same response you are getting again while you are consuming from your local system. Okay, so how to add the headers. These are all details we discussed. Just refer the documents and please go through it. Okay. So I'll connect tomorrow with exception handling and then we'll see miscellaneous topics, small other topics. I'll cover all these things and then we'll move to the security module. See, file operation, download operation. I think someone requested me. I think Rajiv only. Rajiv, I'll tell you one thing, Rajiv. What is my idea here? It is. Yeah, Rajiv, is it available on Google Drive? Means it's not available. I'll share you on the WhatsApp group in our group. Okay. I'll share you. You just contact me. I'll share personally this document. I don't want to share it with others outside of the people. Uh, Okay, I'll share it with you. The point is you requested a file operations, right? What I'm planning here it is yesterday I thought like let me come up with a session on my personal. I'll make something like better by including what I will do is I'll create a separate session later, recording session. Okay. So what I thought yesterday is let's take something like upload along with storing in DB also. So DB point of view, how to store into DB and whatever you stored in the DB, how you are getting downloaded. So for that, it will take some extra time. What I will do is I'll create a recorded session by making all clear notes and all, and then I'll upload it and then I'll notify you. Okay, just go through it because I'll give you a real time point of view. That's what I plan. Instead of giving like high level what is and all, I'll give you a real time point of view when you tested from Postman, how it is uploaded and how it is storing in the DB. If you want to store image in the database, what you have to do. The same what you stored in the database, whatever the image you uploaded, if you want to download again, downloading it back, what you have to do. So this is just like a API, right? API implementation. You can get from the online, but I'll make a session separately and I'll upload it and I'll share it with you. Okay, that is what I plan, but I'll do it. But not as part of regular classes because we have to complete so many other things also. Okay, but I'll do it. That's fine. Okay, guys. So we will see exception handling tomorrow, and then we'll complete small other topics also. Let's see. Thanks to everyone.